All right, so good evening. I wanted to, it's been a long month. I know the videos have been kind of cut down a little bit. You might think that's because I've been out dining at restaurants and doing all the stuff that, we do on a normal situation. But no, I've just been working hard to get Mass Transit 7 done. So a lot of effort, a lot of work. Looking good. We released it over the weekend. Basically, I moved the vNext branch into develop, which updated the documentation, and I started getting emails saying the docs didn't match the code. And I was like, well, hey, it's time to just go ahead and put the version 7 out there. It had enough miles on it, so I was pretty happy about that. And there'd been about a month and a half of work on it, so pretty good. A lot of effort, a lot of contributors, so it's been really great. The upgrade notes are in the website, so if you go to upgrading under getting started, you'll see with version 7, it talks all about the updated changes, what's new, what's broken, what's going to need some attention. There's a few things I need to add here. There were some container configuration tweaks that kind of fell in there. But I figured the best way to do that would be to go ahead and jump into our sample Twitch and upgrade it to version 7. So hopefully that works because that would be fun if it actually worked. But just to go over some of the new features in 7, it is Net Standard 2.0 now, so all the packages should work with Net Framework 4.6.1 or later. But I am only targeting Net Standard. I don't have Mono anywhere on my Mac anymore, so I'm able to build and deploy that completely on Linux without having Mono around, so that's A plus for that. The huge add for version 7 was the addition of riders. Riders lets, if we go into the kind of documentation part, is it riders it lets you put a transport on top of the bus that actually isn't a transport, so deliver messages from both Azure Event Hub and Kafka. So two big asks that have been around for a while. The patterns didn't fit, for PubSub and the kind of things that a broker brings, but now with riders, you really get a first-class experience of bringing Kafka and Event Hub messages into mass transit. So super stoked about that. It was a huge effort. Dennis on the contributor team did a ton of work putting this all together. I mean, he really gets most of the credit for it. Yeah, just an amazing effort, a lot of work, and it's been a lot of fun putting this together with him. So really kind of fun, cool project. There's been some configuration tweaks, Saga repository cleanup, message schedules are now ready. Probably the only other major work effort aside from gutting a ton of the internals that were just duplicate and legacy. There was a feature I introduced probably 5 years ago called Turnout that was a job service. It basically lets you run tasks outside of a consumer that would take a long time. Very limited support, but as part of working on Conductor, Turnout has been completely rewritten and relabeled as a job service. I'll probably do a future episode on that because in and of itself, it's pretty cool. It supports concurrency, it supports retry, and I'm going to be adding like routing slip support and everything so you can get full fault tolerance in your routing slips, including distributed retries and all that. So really kind of cool stuff. Mediator got upgraded to being an add mediator on the container. So Mediator and Mass Transit are now separate and you can run both. There was a big ask to get publish and mediator not throwing an exception. So we did that, but made it so you could also say mandatory. And also you can now connect consumers or handlers, whatever you want to call them, to Mediator after it's been created. So you can bring components in and out really fast and it won't matter. It can handle it really good. There were some deprecations in this, probably big ones. DocumentDB, Microsoft's moving away from that to the Cosmos DB client libraries. So we've did the same thing with the Saga repo and moved it to Cosmos. Supports partition keys now, which I think are one of the required things with the latest version. Lamar is actually really cool, and the nice cool thing about it is it fully is integrated with extensions DI, so much so that I pulled the Mass Transit Lamar package out of the unit tests, and they all still compiled and built. So that was awesome. I basically just deprecated the project because you don't need it. You can configure it all with the extensions DI container package. So one package, two containers. I like that plan. I wish more containers would do that because the specialized configuration per container when you have the ASP.NET Core DI just doesn't make sense. Mass Transit Host, gone. The platform is there instead. I have upgraded the platform. There were some changes with the latest v7, but I did learn how to tag in Docker, so I did tag the platform versions, and I'll kind of peek through that real quick when we start upgrading the sample. And then I got rid of some, I dropped support for an inject in Unity because basically support for those containers is dead. You can argue with me if you want, but they're gone. I'm not going to support them anymore. There was an HTTP transport. Nobody ever used it. It wasn't documented, but it had some cool ideas in it. Those ideas are going to get forklifted into a new part that'll probably drop in 7.1. No real spoilers on that, but let's just say you'll be able to do a map endpoints against a app configuration, and you'll get a full HTTP surface area exposed to your container configured consumers and sagas, and be able to run those all as HTTP or HTTPS endpoints on top of Kestrel. So pretty exciting there. Be able to do it with or without going through a transport. So whether or not it actually maps it through RabbitMQ or just pushes it directly mediator style to the consumer is up to remain. But going for a fully RESTful convention on that, it's going to be legit. But I guess that is a spoiler. So there you go. Now I actually have to do it. So that's it for the version notes. There's a ton of little changes in there. The PR on GitHub has 6 weeks of commits in it. They're pretty deep. For the most part, the surface area that developers interact with hasn't changed. So just kind of got to go with the flow. Again, check out Riders if you've been waiting for Azure Event Hub or Kafka. It's in there. Let's jump into the sample. So I have the sample open here. We can see there's a few errors in it. Errors are always exciting. All I did was go through and replace any instance of 6.3.2, which was the previous MassTransit version, and replace that with 7.0. So that's all I've done so far. If we run a build, we'll see what happens. My guess is it'll probably give me the nice little list of errors. Okay, so let's look at what the changes are for a typical project upgrading to version 7. So let's start in the sample service. So the first thing that we see here is that iRegistration context no longer exists. Okay, well that's kind of a breaking change. Why does that happen? Oh, because I'm calling add bus here, and I'm creating that using RabbitMQ. Okay, so I'm going to reconfigure this the way I would reconfigure it, because this whole syntax has changed with add MassTransit and add bus. And if we look over this, we'll see this method is being deprecated. I didn't mark it as obsolete because that freaks some people out. You don't have to change this, but we want the full support of kind of the new stuff. So we are going to say, no, I'm not going to zoom in. Sorry, if you get a better bandwidth. Yeah, it's 1080p, so you should be able to read it. So instead of calling add bus, I'm going to switch to the new format. So the new format is, and because I'm using RabbitMQ, is I'm just going to say using RabbitMQ. Now this will have 2 parameters now, so I'm going to put both parameters in here. I'm basically going to change the syntax of this. It is an iBus registration context and an iRabbitMQ bus factory configurator. And there were a couple of reasons for that change. The biggest reason for that change is there are things that want to be configured from the container to get into the bus configuration that just makes sense. The other thing is iBus control is kind of I don't know what the better word it is. iBus control is kind of a low-level interface. It's really meant for starting and stopping the bus. And we've built an entire instance structure underneath it for handling not only multiple bus instances, but also to support riders. So riders, there's no interface or any supporting methods on iBus control to connect things to the bus, but we needed to have a higher level construct that was kind of buried in the container to do that. So that's why we've moved this all to the using RabbitMQ style, is so that we can configure the bus instances and have that correct. So we're going to add using RabbitMQ, and we're going to change this signature. You'll also notice that iService Provider is gone from this. And I'll get to that in a minute. Again, we already have a configurator, so we aren't going to create one because we've already called using MassTransit. We'll get rid of these braces, and all of these config methods will just be configurator. And this receive endpoint with this batch consumer, I think we'll just take off the .container because iBus registration context now implements iService Provider. And so iService Provider will know how to resolve all of those different components. This is using the old batch syntax. I should probably upgrade this to the new batch syntax, but maybe I'll do that once I get the upgrade done. Now I should have just a couple of unused directives and we're good. Okay, first file down. Let's go to the next one. What do we have here? Collection bus configurator. So this is the platform startup. This is for the platform runtime. Again, very similar kind of change here. iBus registration context. Super clean, easy change on that one. Another configure bus. So we're going to change this one again to using RabbitMQ. We're going to change the signature of configure bus. We'll start using the actual nice refactoring tools instead of doing it manually now that we've done it once. Context. Oh, we got to get rid of. We're going to just rename this to configurator. Don't need full whack there. And configurator. Okay. Sorry. Hopefully it's not the Rona. I think it's just allergies. We'll see. This is my last video, you'll know. That was in bad taste. It's been windy, it's been hot, it's been humid, it's been weather. We'll just say that. So again, iBus registration context, service provider is built in. Yes, old man, probably the Rona. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Really appreciate that. Hey, wow, we're green. All the errors are fixed. I wonder if it'll actually run. That's the real question. Let's build it though and see if it actually builds. That's encouraging. Okay, awesome. Let's zip out to, I will increase the font on this because that's kind of annoying. 4, 5, here it is, sample Twitch. I think I still have my Docker Compose that starts the planet. I don't remember what all's in it. Let's see, we got RabbitMQ, which should still work. We've got Quartz, we've got Quartz latest. Ports, we've got Twitches, we've got services. Still gonna run it with the platform? That should be exciting. I wonder how that'll go. Don't know that I want to do that entirely. I think I'm gonna edit this real quick and comment. How do you comment in YAML files? That's gonna be a out. Semicolon? Nope. Pound? Hey, it's pound. All right. I know there's probably a better way to do this, but I'm not gonna figure it out right now. I just don't want these to build right now. I want to start these manually from the console. So if we do a Docker Compose up, error, sample Twitch RabbitMQ error. Oh, because I already have a RabbitMQ instance up and running. That one. Bring it all up this time. Okay, now we have everything up. Am I off screen? No, I'm on screen. You can see it, can't you? See the terminal window, can't you? All good? Looking at my preview feed and it seems like it's okay. All right, here we go. Next one. CD code, sample Twitch. Oh, sorry, home. I have like a lot of directories that I use for different things. So. Let's go into the sample service. Oh yeah, my editor went off screen. Sorry, I didn't shrink that in. It was really too tall. Let's try .NET Run on the service, see if it starts. Hey, that's good. Always a good sign. Got an up and running service. Looks like it declared all its exchanges, did all its things. Okay, so we're up and running on version 7. A couple signature changes, moving away from add bus, and we're up and running. I'm excited about that. That's pretty awesome. Create another window, go back into home, sample Twitch, source, warehouse.service, .NET Run this one. We didn't have to change anything on our API, did we? Let's go take a look at that. Okay, so sample API didn't give me any errors in startup. I wonder why. Oh, I don't have a namespace. I don't have to use it. We did clean up some of the namespaces stuff. Okay, so here, so you can see this didn't error. And it didn't error because I didn't really change. I didn't like try to do a custom extracted method or anything. I just did the add bus in line. So for a lot of people that are just using it kind of as the default configuration style, they won't get a compile error. And that's because we just didn't really want to have a whole bunch of painful, oh my God, I upgraded, I'll do this later type moments for people. But I can update this really easily just saying using RabbitMQ. Come down to here, change this to context config, which is pretty much what you'll see. Oh, that's why I didn't do that, because I already. And instead, we don't need health. So this is the thing. You used to have to manually configure the health checks when you're using RabbitMQ. You don't need this anymore because it's automatically done for you under the hood. Makes it clean and easy. I'm going to rename this to the add. Rename this to config because it's an orderly. Maybe I'll just make that. That's a new style. I'm going to go with that for now. Okay, so now I have all I did was upgrade that to add using RabbitMQ just to make it a little cleaner and to get rid of the add bus usage. But I didn't have to change that. It worked just fine without it. Create a new window. Go to home, go to sample Twitch, source sample.api, .NET run it. Let's see what we get. Hey, looks like we might be there. Let's check it out. Let's go to localhost. What is it, 5,000? Swagger. Okay, Swagger's up. Customer, order. This all looks very familiar. I haven't messed with this sample in a month at least, but it looks like it's working. We go to a post. Oh, we got our application JSON. That's right, because we created our test client. So let's go run our test client and see if it goes. So yet another bash window. Gotta be like a way to create a new window in current folder. That's gonna be my hint for the day that I'm gonna have to figure out. I think it's called client.console. Just send 10 orders. See if it works. Everybody plays nice. No idea if it will. Doesn't look good so far. Oh, actually it does. Oh, it's doing its thing. Oh, that's right, because I have all those delays for like payment methods and stuff. All right. Like everything's working as it should. Awesome. 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 As expected, every fourth order faulted. Okay, so hey, we've upgraded the sample Twitch to 7.0. I'll push this up to GitHub so you can see the changes, see the commit changes again. Pretty clean update. Not a whole lot to change. In the case of just doing add bus inline, there was no changes required at all. But I did go ahead and update that to the using RabbitMQ style. Sample API does use, if I remember right, it configures health checks. Okay, and since the bus automatically configures them, if I go here to 5,000, I go to /health/ready, I can see the bus is healthy. I go to live, I can see the bus is alive. All good. What's the, let's see here. Let me look at one of my other services. Oh, yeah, this is going to get rolled off. If that's all scrolled off, 50 port is this on? As an HTTP port. I'm just trying to remember which one. It has a lot of stuff right. Okay, localhost, content root path. Huh, I guess I don't. Oh no, because these are console apps. These aren't running in the platform right now. Okay, so that's good because we're not running in the platform, so that's why it doesn't have those ports. So if I close this out and I close this out and I see that's my website. I'm gonna leave that up and running because I don't run that in the platform. I'm gonna go for broke here. I'm gonna try to actually upgrade and go to the latest platform. So I'm gonna stop the Docker compose. SQL Server, of course, takes a little longer to stop, but that's okay. That's cool. You know, we understand. It's running SQL Server on Linux. I'm not going to complain. No, Postgres, blah. Okay, now I'll shrink the window so that it fits so everybody can see everything. Now I will get all these little pound keys, take those out, and I'm going to put these back in, and I'm going to start running these under the platform again. I already have Twitch, I already have ports, I already have all that. If I save, I am going to have to tweak a couple things though. So as I mentioned earlier, I did finally update Docker to be the right way. So let me show you. I learned how to tag. Curious George can tag. So if you go to the public view of the platform now, if you go look at the tags, you'll see there's a latest, of course. But the 632 tag is the 632 version of MassTransit. That was the last version of 6 that'll be released. I've followed the convention that I've seen a lot of other things do, and I've created a :7, meaning that it's MassTransit 7. A 7.0, meaning it's the major 7.0, or minor, I guess, yeah. And then for each full release of MassTransit, I'll release a platform of 7.0.0-R whatever. So if I rev the platform ahead of MassTransit, I don't have to release MassTransit to increment the version. So the latest will always be like, for now, it's 7.0.0.R1. If I find bugs in the platform, it'll be 7.0.0.R2. And then when 7.0.1 MassTransit comes out, which given the history of .0 releases will be sometime Thursday, there'll be like a 7.0.1-R1. So you'll see those increment up, and you'll always be able to just say, hey, I want the latest 7.0. Great, because hopefully that would work. But if there are breaking changes, I'll hopefully try to do minor revisions or a major one. I won't do a major one for a while because that's about every 6 months. But you get the point. Anyway, so I'm versioning and I'm tagging my Docker images now. I think there should be applause. But I'm going to need a couple of things out of here. The sample and the warehouse, because currently these look at MassTransit Platform latest, which I think that works, but everybody I've talked to says latest is like broken 90% of the time. So I'm going to change this to just reference version 7, just so we know which one I want, and I know that 7 works. Do the same thing here, tell it to get MassTransit 7. Docker Compose looks good. I'm going to run this. Now what happens when I Docker Compose up? I think I have to pass a -- build, maybe? Yeah, okay, it's building warehouse. Good sign. Technology moves fast, and I gotta say, when stuff works that you haven't touched in like a month, that's actually kind of cool. Uh-oh, can't find the specified file. Weird. Could not load assembly code analysis. Something weird with the analyzer. Hopefully that didn't break it. Okay, successfully built, so it didn't crash. Sample, warehouse. I think everybody's going to be happy. Man, I forgot how much stuff is in this Docker Compose. It's a lot of goodness in it. It's still coming up. Still going. Still going. Something tells me I got some very serious logging on for me. Okay, there we go. Now we're caught up. Oh, good. Now we're getting metrics out of all the different servers. Sample, Quartz, warehouse. Okay, everybody's pinging Prometheus. Everybody's happy. Quartz is doing triggers. Okay, we're all up and running. Let's do a look here. Let's do a looky-loo at 5002. Did I really just say looky-loo? Yeah. I don't know which one it is. 5002, 5004. Okay, 5004 looks like the inventory service. You can see it has the 3 different endpoints. It's displaying them all out. The bus endpoint we don't start because nobody likes to see those temporary endpoints. So that's cool. Got my Docker image version. So if that's 5004, is there a 5006? Yeah. 5006 is my other service that has my routing slip activities, my submit order. So all the health looks good. All my service endpoints look good. So if I go back to, where was my client at? If I go to this one, I should be able to do my 10 orders again. Should be able to get those filled out. They should all be running inside the platform on the containers, which again, it was just a couple lines to update the platform too. So that was legit. All this stuff seems to be working, which is delightful because half the time when you're doing a live demo, things break. And this is the first time I've actually used the release packages of version 7, which should inspire confidence in everybody saying, wait, I thought they were released. But it's the first time I used the release packages. Actually, I updated the benchmark earlier, so that was fair. But I've used the development packages for a while now, so it's definitely seen some use. I also did a lot of extensive updates to the documentation. So this is working. I'll put this up on GitHub. You'll get to see it. It's done and going. One other thing I wanted to touch on, a lot of the documentation has been updated. I looked at kind of the usage of the doc site to see where people were going the most, and I gave those pages a lot of love. So one of the things I did, because people were constantly asking, this gives me an error. Oh, well, the wrong namespace, wrong code. A lot of the code samples now, if you start to see that they have like namespace at the beginning, these are actually CS files that I do a .NET build before I publish the docs. And the whole point of that is that I guarantee that all these source files build, and then I inject them into the doc site. So now you're seeing actual real compiling code. So it makes them a little more verbose and they take up a little more space, but you can be guaranteed that they'll actually build because they do build and they tell you what namespaces. I've also tried to put, where possible, uses to show which packages were part of that, since you aren't seeing the CS proj, but the CS proj has every project in it, so that wouldn't help. But tried to make that useful and kind of show, the most common one that I'm seeing right now is everybody's using ASP.NET Core. Most people are using MSDI. Seeing a lot more Amazon. I'm seeing a lot more Azure Service Bus. Still see a ton of RabbitMQ, which is still highly recommended. I started doing a bunch of setup in GCP over the past week, and it's just so nice to just deploy a RabbitMQ cluster in GCP on Docker or GKE. But yeah. Anyway, Google Cloud is pretty decent. But yeah, all the docs have been updated to show what gets registered in the container, how the samples work, how to set them up. You can see everything's now showing the new syntax. So definitely dig into that. Refresh your mind on the docs just before if you see an error, try to jump into that docs page, take a look at it. Should get you going, should get you all set up. That's about all I wanted to cover tonight. I wanted to keep it fairly short and just kind of go over the new stuff. I will do another session probably this week. I want to do a refresh on riders and show Kafka and Event Hub because it did change quite a bit from the first video I did. Got some benefits on there. I still haven't any benchmarking on it, but the last I looked, it was ridiculously fast. So Kafka is definitely smoking. Oh, and then I want to do one on the how we change turnout to the job consumers. Job consumers are actually kind of cool. And yeah, so I'll show that because it'll let you kind of do job dispatching and things like that. Anyway, thanks for joining tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Definitely pull down the latest bits. What did someone say the other day? They said MassTransit's like a release train. It just kind of keeps going forward and getting better. So that was good feedback. I really like it when people reach out. So if you're using MassTransit, give me a shout either on the Discord channel, something. Just say, hey. It's good to hear and see people being very successful with it. So thanks. Have a good night, and we'll catch you on the next time.